great for the grandkids to, really experience City Hall. We always welcome all the families and children in City Hall. One thing I really
Well, they're
appreciate.
not here, but I'm
Oh,
talking
they're
about
not?
me
Okay, I thought they were there.
because
Uh,
I came back from Sunny Hills
yeah,
and I was
yeah,
gonna go to
yeah.
my house, but it just would it.
Hmm.
I don't think I could have made it in 10 minutes, so that's why I
Oh,
stopped
okay.
here.
Well, thank you for taking the extra initiative and effort to be here at this time, and um, that means a lot. So I appreciate it. Yeah. Nice and
Alrighty.
sunny in that office, yeah. But yeah, what I was saying earlier, I'm always in support of families being at City Hall.
Yeah, I was here the other night that I saw Anthony was here in his office. So
Okay, you see, I
because
left my door open. Did you see that?
yeah, because I pick up my mail here.
Yeah, I got an open door policy.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Literally, literally.
There's nothing in there besides a
Yeah,
whole bunch of work. Jokes on anybody that goes in my office. That's just nothing but work and bills.
yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, but I do love seeing families in City Hall. Before we continue here,
Yeah, when it opens up again, we'll definitely bring the grandkids here.
yeah, I love seeing the public there, pre-COVID and post-COVID. I love seeing the
Mm-hmm.
public there with their kids. I love seeing our employees with their families. I'll go ahead and say it. It's a
Yeah, I hear you.
family-oriented place, and that's what City
Yeah,
Hall is most special when we have the families in there. And
yeah.
yeah, I just love it. So you're in a special place right now.
Yep.
Okay, great. All
You
right,
you,
that's
you
the
heard the
pledge of
story
allegiance.
you heard the story because I've been around for a long time. So you know the story about Calaveras Hills. The reason why it's called Calaveras is because of the Indian skulls that they
That's right. The skulls.
and
Yep.
so that's why it's called Las Calaveras.
That's right.
So they even say that City Hall is haunted. You heard about that, right?
No,
You never heard that? And you
no.
know what? In this very room, one time I did feel like there was. I'm serious. I swear that I do feel like there
Oh
was
yeah.
something,
It must be Friday,
I
huh?
ain't gonna go there. I
It
won't
must
go.
be Friday. It must be
All
Friday.
right, let's move on.
It must be Friday. Oh my God, my phone. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's move on. That was it. That was the cue. All right. Moving on to approval of agenda from our last meeting in
So
oh,
move.
this meeting actually. Okay, we got a second. That motion is carried. The agenda is approved for today. And then now approval of minutes for the last meeting we had.
So move.
We have a second as well. That's approved the minutes. And we're going to public forum. Let's see here. Public forum will be 1 minute. 1 minute Friday special. 1 minute. If there's any attendees that would like to speak, now's the time. We do have some agenda items as well. You can speak there if you'd like. Okay, I don't see anybody for the public forum. That's it with the public forum. Thank you. Moving on here. Business items. Business items. Let's review and discuss transportation related topics. We got about 3 things here, and we got the right person, Mr. Chan here. And take it away, Mr. Chan.
Thank you, Mayor Trent. Please bring up presentation for item number 1, please. Next slide, please. So an update on the Montague Pedestrian Overcrossing Project, CP 2008. This project is located on Montague Expressway, connecting Piper Drive to the north and Milpitas Transit Center Garage to the south. The project was funded by TAS funds and grants. Construction of Montague Expressway pedestrian overcrossing broke ground in fall of 2019. Montague pedestrian overcrossing span was erected, a major milestone, in July 2020. All the project structural elements are currently installed. Project is substantially completed at this time. Next slide, please.
Is that the Rainbow Bridge?
Yes.
Okay.
So here you see rendering, or not rendering, but actual photos of this current state of the pedestrian overcrossing. As you see, the rainbow color is fins are installed on the overcrossing element. To the top left corner, you're looking the bridge from the garage side, the Milpitas garage side. And then on the top right corner, that's the northern landing next to the edge development adjacent to it. And then bottom right corner, you can see all the rainbow element on those fins. Next slide, please. And here's another view of the POC from the ground level, from the northern end of the bridge looking towards the garage. You could see again the fin elements, the various color. And then the right-hand picture shows the corridor, the pedestrian corridor that connects to the bought garage. Next slide, please. So the remaining construction activity or the remaining work, primarily they are system for the POC. They include the elevator alarm, fire alarm, CCTV for monitoring, and some additional fencing to safeguard pedestrian from escaping from the POC, for lack of a better word, because of the fin elements being installed on the exterior side of the POC. They become nice handholds for pedestrians to climb out. So we are adding some additional fencing to prevent that from happening. So the project completion right now is anticipated for June of 2021.
What about the cost? Is that going to be an additional cost to us, to the city, or is that with the VTA?
The project have contingency available. So everything, all the costs right now is under our contingency budget. So there is no plan for request additional funding from anyone at this time.
Okay.
So that concludes the update on the Montague POC. And then now we update you on the enhanced crosswalk striping and beacons and radar speed feedback signage project. City Council approved and award the construction contract to Bear Electric for this project with a total contract value of $418,150. The project includes installation of crosswalk warning beacons at 8 crosswalk locations, radar speed feedback signs at 6 locations, and delivery of 3 radar speed feedback sign trailers for rotation at various city locations to address resident speeding concern. Both the warning beacons and speed feedback signs are traffic calming devices. In total, after project completion, there will be 20 pedestrian crossing with warning beacons and 27 fixed radar speed feedback sign, and finally 4 speed feedback sign trailer available for deployment.
That's great to hear. Those beacons, those flashing lights, right?
Correct.
Yeah, those are really important to have in areas where there's a lot of pedestrian crossing. That's really great.
Next slide, please. The following are the 14 project locations that are primarily near schools and residential neighborhood. The beacons are located along Arizona Avenue, Dixon Road, Fannin, Kennedy Drive, Abbott Avenue, Roswell, Washington Drive, Yosemite Drive, and then the speed feedback sign installation are located on Dixon Road, Abbott Avenue, South Main, Temple Drive, Yosemite, and Washington Drive. Next slide, please. And this is kind of like the area map of the project location. As you can see, they are located at various, points throughout the city, essentially primarily located on the residential neighborhood. And then next to it, you could see a sample of what these devices will look like. The top one is the fixed speed feedback sign. The middle one is the speed feedback sign trailer, and then the last bottom one is the flashing beacon at the crosswalk. Next slide, please. Construction is currently underway for this project. The contractor has just completed installation of pole foundation and various concrete restoration work. Steel pole for the project are a long lead time delivery item and usually takes 8 to 12 weeks from order, fabrication, and final delivery. The contractor is awaiting pole and the equipment arrival for the final installation of these devices. Project completion is anticipated in June of 2021. Next slide, please. And that concludes my project update. Any question, Mayor and Vice Mayor?
Yeah, this is great. Mr. Chan, you continue to be one of the most important people in the city of Milpitas with your work and specialty. I just want to take a moment to show my appreciation for your work and along with your colleagues in your work area. One thing I want to bring up for the overcrossing at Montague, do we have any post plans once the construction listed has been complete? I know there's discussions about adding maybe lights to the overcrossing as well, as maybe a possible next addition to that. Is there anything?
So the current project has accommodation for future decorative lighting element to be added. The current lighting on the POC is the standard illumination for the interior of the POC, but there are potential lighting element to be added to add a kind of aesthetic art element to further enhance this Milpitas fixture.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the way you said it. And maybe really the interior of the overcrossing. Are there lights? There must be lights in there already on the above the walkway.
Right now, the interior of the crossing, they hang from the ceiling, so it's not a direct light. It's you don't see them directly. They are cast light. We actually don't want direct access to them because they tended to be vandalized. People throw stuff on it and break them, so they are hidden away, and they reflect the light onto the pedestrian walkway.
Right, great. I think yes, Ashwini.
So we have, as Steve Chan mentioned, that there's kind of infrastructure. We expanded capacity in the electrical room to allow for future decorative lighting. And so that's something that we would look at as a public art project, possibly. The PRCRC is already looking at a public art project on the stairwell piece of it. And then the lighting one could be a future one at this point.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, you said it. If we can send to the art commission or to the council or however we need to do it, so where we can use some arts commission dollars to, or even work with VTA to get some funding possibly. I know the vice mayor is at VTA. The vice mayor, Carmen Montano, can reach out to the right persons over there to, get some dollars. The VTA vice mayor, when I was there, I got to vote on the actual rainbow artwork. So
you're the one that put that.
Yeah. Well, no, I give full credit to the city manager's office under Julie. But I was the one that voted on it, and it got all the VTA board supported it, which was great. So, but I think Vice Mayor, I think it'd be great if you can be the one to lead, since you're going to be on VTA for a couple of years minimum. I think it'd be great. Let me ask the vice mayor if you can, next time you go to VTA or next week after the holiday, reach out to whoever over there, Evelyn, Tran, or your board members, your chair, whoever, to see if we can get some more dollars to put artwork, inside the walkway up top. It's like an artwork lighting. You know what I mean? So that could be a great project we can work on together. That way it wouldn't be just a bland lighting. We could have circular lights and things, and the light will bring safety too.
Yeah, well, everybody's going through budget cuts now, so
yeah,
we're not the only one.
Well, we can find a cost effective. Yeah, give it a try. Where I'm asking you.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, great. And then
so I have, when you're done, I have one.
Okay, great. So I'll go to you in 1 second. I just want to say, at least for this item A here, I'm happy to see a very solid timeline on the completion. This is a special project for me. obviously. And I know that the vice mayor advocated for those sorts of um, beacons and things closer to Sunny Hills. So it's nice to see we have those over there. And I want to thank the vice mayor for really advocating for that at a prior meeting. So, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Steve Chen, if you can go to the slide where you have where the beacons are going to be placed at. There's all the streets where they will be placed at.
Yes, Ike, would you
Yeah.
please bring back the presentation?
It's just that there's one street that I didn't see on there, and I don't know if that was.
Right there.
Thank you. You got Washington, you have Arizona. Yeah, Washington was the one that, I got a lot of complaints from the homeowners that people just race on that street. They don't stop. So I'm glad that's going in. But the
Yeah.
other one is that I was concerned about, and it's not on here, but I don't know if that was one of the ones that was projected, is California Street. The one that crosses from the True Mark project to the not 7-Eleven, the Chevron.
California Circle.
California Circle.
Yeah, there was some issues on across, putting a crosswalk there or some kind of a flashlight, so when flashing lights, so when people cross, they'll be able to, they won't get hit with the the incoming traffic from the freeway. So I don't know if it's in your budget here or if that's something in the future.
So
But that's the one I was concerned about.
as part of this project, we also procured 3 speed feedback trailers, so we could definitely deploy those trailers at these locations, actually throughout California Circle, to remind motorists to be mindful of the speed. So that's the intent of the trailer. So it allows city staff to rapidly deploy traffic calming measure
Yeah.
out in the field in response to a residents' concern.
Yeah, but as you're aware, there was an accident there, so that I just want to make sure that it doesn't happen again, and probably something permanent. If it's not in this budget, maybe when we have the funds for the next round, hopefully.
Yeah, I think both of you are spot on, and I do want to add the trailer also collects data, and it shows number of vehicles that are speeding, and so that data will be very valuable, along with just our experiences, like the vice mayor said. An accident is an accident and things like that. So looking forward to seeing some progress there.
Yeah, if you could just keep that in the forefront for the next round or whenever we have that opportunity. I think we need a permanent one there, because remember, if the people aren't speeding, they're looking for oncoming traffic. They're not looking to see who's crossing the street, and so by then it's kind of too late. So that's the area that I'm maybe keep that in the forefront.
Oh, we will,
Definitely.
absolutely. All right, great. Let's keep it going here. Vice Mayor, anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you. Good job.
Okay, great. Back to you, Mr. Chan.
Okay, next item. Can we bring up the agenda? Next item on the agenda is the introduction to share mobility, bike and scooter share, and share mobility program option. To present this is Jay Lee with our planning department. Jay?
Hey, Jay, welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thank you,
Hello.
Mayor Tran, and glad to be here to present on this item. So thank you for having me. Let's see. All right, so, staff briefly discussed this topic, and an assessment and the recommendations during the Trail, Pedestrian, and Bicycle Master Plan update presentation to City Council last week. But today we want to focus on this topic because, for that other presentation, there was just a lot to discuss. So we want to expand upon it and really, talk about it a little bit more today. And the purpose of today's presentation is to just introduce the topic and receive general direction for how to move forward. Next slide, please. So first, I'll provide a brief overview of shared micromobility, then go over the background, and then some key considerations, and then also program characteristics. Even though the Trail, Pedestrian, and Bicycle Master Plan, provided some recommendations, so that's something we will definitely want to be consistent with, and then go over some other Bay Area cities, but I'm actually going to go over that a little bit earlier in the background, and then conclude with the next steps. So what is shared micromobility? According to the Shared Micromobility Playbook by Transportation for America, shared micromobility refers to any small, human or electric-powered transportation solution, such as bikes, e-bikes, scooters, e-scooters, or any other small, lightweight vehicle that is being used as a shared resource between multiple users. The guidelines for regulating shared micromobility by NACTO defines it as shared use fleets of small, fully or partially human-powered vehicles, such as bikes, e-bikes, and e-scooters. These vehicles are generally rented through a mobile app or kiosk, are picked up and dropped off in the public right-of-way, and are meant for short point-to-point trips. Next slide, please. So let's quickly go over the different types, at least maybe the common ones. Of course, there are your traditional bikes, which we are familiar with. There are also e-bikes, which are battery powered and need to be charged. Their standard range varies from 30 to 60 miles before they need to be charged again. And then the max speed ranges from 20 to 28 miles per hour. And the level of assistance varies. So what that means is you can either ride it completely unassisted, but you can set the level of how much assistance the e-bike will provide. And then you have e-scooters, which are also battery powered and need to be charged. Their standard range varies from 12 to 20 miles. And their max speeds can go up to 20 miles per hour, but the state provides a 15 mile per hour speed limit. So, there isn't much of a difference there. And then it's also completely motorized. Next slide, please. So for the primary goals of shared micromobility services and systems, a common one is to provide flexible and safe an alternative option that minimizes automobile dependency. Also, these are typically to fulfill short distance trips, whether they are part of your daily routine, or a special purpose trip. For example, a daily routine trip would be a commute, and a special purpose would be if you ever want to go out for recreation or somewhere else. And then, typically a lot of times these are first and last mile solutions that target commuters. And they oftentimes really complement fixed transit, like a light rail line or a BART station. If you put these around the stations, and then, once people get off that station at the stop, then you can, this is a great option for people to get around. It's a great option for visitors for that reason, and also disadvantaged populations, especially the motorized modes, since it's a little bit, they are a little bit easier to get around. And and we tend to see that disadvantaged populations rely a little bit more on alternative modes of transportation. Next slide, please. All right, so I just want to go over quickly, the rise of micromobility in the US. It is increasing in popularity, as you can see. The stats go up to 2018. So I'm not sure how COVID has impacted it, but I think on the one hand, there may be fewer routine trips, but on the other hand, there may be more recreational trips, people wanting to get out of their homes and, walk and bike, something that's relatively safe, even during a pandemic. But as you can see, as of 2018, there were 84 million trips through this mode, and a lot of it was from scooter share. Next slide, please. You see they're popping up all over the US, and that's what the map shows. And then on the right, you see a breakdown of the trips. what we're seeing is that scooter share is again on the rise, becoming a more popular option. Next slide, please. And let's focus in a little bit on the Bay Area and what other cities are implementing these kinds of pilot programs. So there are several cities, they have implemented or will implement pilot programs. That's really what we're seeing right now. Not necessarily a permanent solution yet, because this is still a relatively new mode, and I think a lot of cities want to test it out before committing to something. So they'll usually engage in a one-year contract with a vendor and think of extensions beyond that. You see that they're mostly in maybe more dense and urban cities with a strong jobs base and a strong transit system. And as you can see here, also the motorized options are a bit popular here, maybe with a little bit more of the hilly terrain. And you can see that most of them are citywide, except Oakland, where it's almost citywide, but they account for the hillside areas where it may be more difficult to travel. And then it's not really in East Oakland. So, and also Mountain View and Palo Alto are, their Mountain View is their e-scooter program is coming soon, and Palo Alto is going to renew for a second year. Next slide, please. So let's look at Milpitas's context a little bit. As we all know, we have a BART station, and it's not just the city, but VTA sees this the BART station as an important regional transportation hub. As you can see in the map, the purple lines, those are VTA light rail lines that connect to San Jose and really to the west as well, where Sunnyvale and Mountain View and beyond. And then there are also connections going south to more of downtown San Jose. And I'll get into this a little bit really soon, but there are a couple of routes, high capacity transit corridors that have been identified by VTA. Thanks to staff's urging, they actually added these corridors for studying. So VTA right now is conducting a high capacity transit corridor study. And there is one line, I think it's 24, which you see further north along Calaveras, and then onto 237 going west. That's one route. And then you see another potential high capacity corridor from the Milpitas Transit Center, Milpitas BART. It's number 10. It goes down and it goes through the airport and then all the way to the Winchester station to the south. That one was identified as a top 10 corridor for study. So I think that was great news for us. So as you can see, we have a lot of, thankfully, we have a lot of great existing transportation networks. We have a lot of options here. I think Milpitas is really, a regional hub and going to, become more of a regional hub as time goes on. And, for these high capacity transit corridors, they will be a little bit different from light rail, although they will operate kind of like a light rail in that I think they're mostly imagining bus rapid transit lines. So bus rapid transit is different from a standard bus route where there's typically a dedicated lane and raised platforms, which allow for more efficient onboarding, offboarding, high efficiency bus travel that, saves time for commuters. So it operates more like a light rail line. So as you can see, there's a lot going on. And I think shared micromobility really fits in and complements and supports our existing systems. Next slide, please. It also complements and supports a lot of our policies. So as I mentioned, the Trail, Pedestrian, and Bicycle Master Plan update, provided a lot of recommendations for shared micromobility, which I will get into a little bit later. Our general plan update, which hopefully will be adopted later this month, has a draft policy in the circulation element that says, in conjunction with neighborhood jurisdictions, establish a safe and viable bike share program that will serve communities throughout Milpitas. Of course, there's also the Milpitas Metro specific plan, which we just had a study session on, focusing on transportation. But as you all know, there's a vision for Great Parkway to have it become more of a complete street. And then there's also a suite of VMT, vehicle miles traveled reduction, and transportation demand management policies, especially to leverage the new BART station. And then, the plan will propose extensive pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure. And then we also have our upcoming Gateway Main Street specific plan, which will establish a new vision for Main Street and and try to continue the redevelopment into more of a mixed-use neighborhood while maintaining our commercial industrial core, to really have it become a place where there are a lot of different uses, and a vision for Main Street as more of a complete street would support and complement the development that we're hopefully imagining there. And also on the CEQA side, the California Environmental Quality Act analysis requirements, the state has, basically come down and said local jurisdictions have to, when we analyze transportation impacts for development projects and even long-range plans, VMT, vehicle miles traveled, is the new metric as opposed to level of service. I won't get into it too much, although we'll be available after this presentation for questions. But basically, the goal of VMT, the major goal, is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by reducing automobile dependency, which is a big source of greenhouse gas emissions, which has a lot of different adverse impacts on the environment. So if you see all of our policies, all of the the existing transportation systems, you can kind of see where shared micro mobility may fit in. Next slide, please. So some key considerations, of course, the location. They are primarily, when they are docked, they are primarily in the public right of way, but, there are some, I think some ways or ideas to, think about how to have them in private property as well, but most of them in the public right of way. There are also a lot of safety issues, which we, definitely want to consider. First, there's enforcement of safety rules. There's also the driver and the user dynamic, when they're sharing the road. A lot of education is needed on both sides. Drivers aren't used to sharing the road with bikes and scooters, and maybe a lot of users aren't aware of the best safe practices. We also have some major roads, that go through, especially the core of our city and even near the BART station. So, crossing intersections can be a bit of a challenge. And another thing to consider for safety is that, we have state law that basically only allows motorized scooters in bike lanes, although local jurisdictions have some discretion to relax those standards. And then the state established a 15-mile-per-hour speed limit. Next slide, please. Other considerations include maintenance. Obviously, there's some user error. When people don't dock their vehicle or a scooter or bike properly. There's also, which also results in some maintenance for vendors in cities. It's oftentimes falls on the city's responsibility. It can be costly and time consuming a little bit. There are also equity issues where, this shared micromobility is a good mode for all ages. And as I mentioned, vulnerable and disadvantaged populations often benefit the most from this mode. And also another consideration, obviously, is the PED/micromobility safety, where it's important to have complete streets. I think that's one thing that we're realizing is that when you want to have shared micromobility, if you don't have bike lanes, if you don't have ample pedestrian amenities, it could result in more conflicts between motorized travel and pedestrians. So it really is important to have our roadways be designed safely, with buffers and physical separation to really make this mode, more safe. Next slide, please. So some more other policy issues. There's, pricing considerations, pricing structure, whether it's, you want to have options, probably single day, a single trip, a day pass, monthly pass, annual pass. There are various equity programs with income-based discounts and alternative payment forms. Data sharing is also important, where you can evaluate the program, evaluate compliance, and think about how to expand or not expand. There's user education, obviously, for the user, and also rules of the road. There are, also different options for where to park these bikes and scooters at hubs, or hopefully at some sort of a fixed structure. And then there's coordination is also important with neighboring jurisdictions and also major employers, where with neighboring jurisdictions we want to make sure that there's seamless mobility from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. And I think it would be important to partner with major employers, because I think a lot of the users and the mode shift can happen through major employers and employees. Next slide, please. So some program characteristics that I want to highlight that I don't want to repeat too much but from the Trail, Pedestrian, and Bicycle Master Plan, recommended a 1-year pilot program. You can see the map of the service area there, where the bike share would be focused in the southwest quadrant, and then could potentially be expanded throughout the city in the future. And then the scooter share pilot program may be a better fit for the shaded areas to the west and east, where the roads maybe work a little bit better for that, and also where there's an employment center, especially to the west. I think the plan recommended a hybrid system, a mix of station-based and not truly dockless, but if they are going to be parked not at a shared micromobility station, they could be parked at at least be parked at a fixed location. And then they recommended both e-bikes and e-scooters, namely for the equitable access benefits. Next slide, please. I did want to talk real briefly about franchise agreements, because of course the big question is funding. A lot of cities that I've researched throughout the Bay Area, they all charge an application fee. It ranges from $2,500 to $5,000 for a vendor to apply. And then the franchise/permit fee, which is annual, ranges from $20,000 to $35,000. And then when it comes to maintenance and operation fees is where you can have, I think there's a little bit more flexibility and variety. Some cities have implemented a public maintenance fund or a performance bond, which is more of a balance that they collect, a deposit of $10,000. Or other cities have gone with a vehicle fee or both, or it's per device and per year, $50 to $100. And then public property repair and maintenance endowment, which is an annual fee, which is $2,500. So a lot of different options, but the point is cities are recognizing the challenges and want to make sure that we cover the costs as much as possible. Next slide, please. So the next steps, we're here to receive direction from the Transportation Subcommittee and potentially City Council. And then we'll definitely conduct additional research based off of that general direction, start to establish some project parameters, and we can also come back at any time with more details. So again, today is just a touch point for general discussion and for direction. And yeah, again, we can always come back. Next slide, please. So I wanted to leave this slide up for policy direction questions to help guide the conversation. Do we support the recommendations in the Trails, Pedestrian, and Bicycle Master Plan? And then also, when it comes to station location, public right-of-way versus exploring options for private property, and then any other concerns related to safety and maintenance. So we welcome all comments, and yeah, I'm available for any comments and questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jay. Appreciate your presentation and touching on all the important aspects of this item and what this type of operation will bring to our city. I think it's a great thing. I know I did a poll in the community about sort of these e-bikes and e-scooters about a couple years ago. I think I met with one of the e-scooter companies when I was at the Conference of Mayors, I think 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, when this idea was sort of newer than it is today. I think a lot of the residents that have been here for so long had a lot of concerns about it initially. But I do think now that with the BART station, the light rail with the Tasman corridor, I could see a lot of these scooters going on those systems. Folks can take a scooter and hop on the public transportation and then take the scooter to their office or whatever. So it just makes a lot of sense for these transportation methods to be here in Milpitas at the BART station. And I guess we'll see how far they spread. I think there's some residents that don't want to see these scooters just laying around all over the place. randomly and things. It's a very particular type of business for urban areas, and I guess that's where we are, Milpitas Metro. So I do think there's support for this, and the pilot program will be nice to watch, and I think it'll be successful. I remember when I was in New York several years ago, city bikes were the deal out there, and so I can see kind of the benefits and costs of these sort of transportation methods. So number two here, before I go to the vice mayor, number two, I think for the station location, I guess we'll get it where we can, really. I'd hate to force one of these docking stations, especially for bikes, in an area that's just not one with good feng shui, if that's one way to put it. And so anywhere we can have these stations that kind of make best sense, then I'm fine with that. Private property is always nice. So, and then other concerns. Yeah, these are proven transportation options in a lot of different places, and I think it can work over at the Milpitas Metro. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I totally agree with the mayor. This is very much needed. I've seen some of them already in our city, even though they're not supposed to be here, but but I think if they're going to be here, they need to pay for, to use our city streets and so forth. So the question I have is, will these other modes of transportation, will they be on the green part of the streets or on the sidewalks?
Yeah, they should be on in the bike lanes. So that's why I think it is important to have them go where there is that infrastructure already, because we don't want them to go on the sidewalks and conflict with pedestrians.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's also a direction that we'd want from this group as well. So
Yeah. So yeah, safety is number one. So I'm thinking that before we tell them to come on board, we need to make sure that all the streets are already service ready, I guess, with the greening. I don't know what is it called greening the streets, or I'm not sure what that. I'll call it greening the streets for the bikes and the scooters and so forth. I think this is so important because, with trying to reduce our carbon footprint, this is the way to go. I think probably the only thing is I want to have them in locations where they're going to be used. For example, a lot of kids going to the high school when school opens, people that going shopping, or a lot of people go to Walmart. So I guess coming up with, staff coming up with the routes where people will be using those. But definitely we need this in our city. It's inevitable. It's good. It's a good thing because it does bring down our carbon footprint. And it also shows that we're also becoming modernized, or our city's growing up, if you will. So it's a good thing. I love it. This is going to be really good for our city.
Great. Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. Jay, do you need any more feedback?
I think that's great. And we can definitely come back when we have a little bit more detail flushed out and check in periodically. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, one step at a time. Great step. Okay. I think that'll be it for business item B. Looks like we got enough there today. Okay, just really want to have an efficient meeting here. Let's go to item C, speed hump policy review.
Okay. Okay, Steve Chen again. I'll be presenting this speed hump policy review. Next slide, please. Overview. Speed hump is a traffic calming engineering measure to help reduce vehicle speed to improve pedestrian and cyclist safety. Traffic calming is most effective when it is administered as a proactive program. A proactive program includes education, enforcement, and engineering. It is often referred to the 3 E's of traffic safety. The 3 E's of traffic safety is like a three-legged stool. The stool is weak and unstable when the 3 legs are not balanced and equally strong. Next slide, please. The following are some example of traffic calming measure. They can be categorized into two groups: the structural measure that physically change the roadway and the non-structural measures. For the structural measure, we include chicane, barbell, median island, road diet, roundabout, speed hump, and traffic circle. For the non-structural measure, they include community gateway treatment, pavement marking, electronic speed display sign, traffic violation signs. Next slide, please. Specifically for speed hump, the design is generally constructed of asphalt concrete. They are minimum 3 to 4 inches tall, approximately 12 foot in width, or actually length, and install the full width of the roadway. And they are placed away from a typical residential driveway, and they're designed to have little or no discomfort for speed under 25 miles an hour. Next slide, please. Some of the pros and cons of speed hump. Speed hump definitely reduces vehicle speed. Residents are usually satisfied with speed hump installation. They provide a visual impression that a street is not intended for speeding. And they also reduce, of course, some resident complaint. There are some cons though. Speed hump, unlike speed bump, are more gentle in design and cannot reduce speed as much as some residents want. As typical speed bump will force a vehicle to slow down to 5 miles an hour to go over, while speed hump, as I mentioned earlier, are intended to allow travel up to 25 miles an hour. Speed hump may also divert traffic to other streets where drivers avoid going over the speed hump. They also increase emergency response time. Some fire departments say it adds approximately 10 seconds per bump to the response time. Given Milpitas Fire's fire department response time goal is 4.5 minutes, so each new speed hump could add about 4% to the emergency response time. Just keep that in mind that if there are too many speed humps, it does impact emergency response time. Noise level will also be increased as vehicle accelerate or decelerate and accelerate away from the speed hump. Additionally, driver may circumvent the speed hump by speeding up to it and speeding after going over the hump, so that speeding concern still remains. And this specific issue has occurred in the city, in our city, where we have speed bump installed, and we continue to receive a steep speed concern complaints. Next slide, please. The city speed hump policy on October 21st, 1997, the previous city council approved a policy for installation of speed hump, a structural traffic calming device designed to use on local residential street. Next slide, please. The policy includes outlines 6 steps to be followed. Number 1, it needs to be requested by residents with greater than 70 support from residents from the affected street. Street has to demonstrate a speeding problem that persists after non-structural means, such as increased enforcement or use of radar speed feedback signage. Number 3, street is a local residential street with a 25 miles an hour speed limit. 4, speed contains a slope of less than 6%. 5, street has traffic count greater than 700 vehicle per day. This amounts to about 1 vehicle per minute over a 12-hour period. And lastly, staff reports and provide recommendation to be forwarded to City Council for final determination. Next slide, please. Speed hump policy for other jurisdictions. How does it compare to our neighboring city? For City of San Jose, San Jose doesn't actually have a speed hump program. Residents are directed to contact San Jose Police Department to request enforcement related to speeding concern. For City of Fremont, as part of their Vision Zero 2020 action plan, Fremont is implementing speed hump installation at priority location based on analysis on traffic crash data, focusing on major injury severity. Next slide, please. For City of Sunnyvale, Sunnyvale's guideline mirror pretty much the same as Milpitas. It needs to have a neighborhood consensus, data collection to confirm the speeding concern, implementing non-intrusive or non-structural traffic calming measure first, follow up with effectiveness review. If more is needed, traffic calming study supporting implementation of speed hump follows last. Next slide, please. And for City of San Francisco, they take a block by block approach that relies on data-driven method to focus on those streets that are demonstrated speeding and traffic related issue. And there's broad residential acceptance for installation of speed hump. Next slide, please. So in summary, traffic calming is best implemented as a proactive program that includes education, enforcement, and engineering to slow vehicles to improve traffic safety. Speed hump is an example of a traffic calming measure developed through an engineering process. Our city's speed hump policy is based on community needs, data-driven approach, and community support. And finally, our policy is consistent with best practice developed through national and state level research and analysis, and in line with our neighboring cities' traffic calming policy. Next slide, please. That concludes my presentation, and I'll be open to questions and comments from the group.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chan. Really glad we're on the last item here, mostly for today. We'll get out of here pretty soon. I want to say that this item is probably one of the top 10 most important things I'll ever put my time and work into here at City Hall. These speed humps are that important for our safety and our residents and their children and family members. And so, here in my 5th year, I'm getting this information today, which I love, not a bad thing. But I think it says something if I'm sitting here for a number of years and the vice mayor's been here in City Hall even longer than I have, where we're getting, reoccurring emails from residents and talking to residents in particular, not widespread throughout the city, but maybe on my mind about 1 or 2 or 3 places in town. It's like, we want to really be very professional and strategic with the policies in place and going forward as to how we can solve the speed hump demand and requests throughout the city. So just really tremendous presentation. I think that speed humps, even if we were to support it as a council in particular places in need, there's still a kind of a cost prohibitive or fiscal impact decision-making step as well. And it is my hope today that we can move forward with looking at speed humps, maybe not necessarily addressing or reforming the policy so much, but have the council make a decision. And I love working with the vice mayor on this. I've been with the vice mayor in the community where we're on someone's front lawn and the vice mayor is introducing me to a resident that's been here a lifetime. And we're looking out at Arizona, for example, and I'll hear the vice mayor talk to the resident, and the resident is retired, and the resident is talking about some traffic concerns and maybe opportunity for speed humps. So I couldn't ask for a better person to work with than the vice mayor on this one. But yeah, it looks like the council will have to make some decisions going forward, and I would want to ask Mr. Chan and your expertise here in the city if we can take a look at, and I don't want to jump too far ahead. I know the council's got to support the speed humps, but I believe in the council, I believe in the vice mayor. But I think going forward at some point, I would like to see the types of speed humps available. I know I think someone told me there's like 50 different types of speed humps. And so some are cheaper than others, but I don't want to say cheap because they're all quality. It's always going to be quality, but some are less costly, I should say. Maybe things we can look at, possibilities, options. And before I forget, I do want to thank you again, Mr. Chan, for showing the pros and cons. I mean, you covered it. Those are some real facts as to the pros and cons, and that's something that we'll keep in mind as well. Let me go to the vice mayor here. I would love to hear what the vice mayor has to say.
Thank you, Mayor. I do appreciate those speed bumps because they do slow down the traffic, especially those long streets. Let's say Capitol Avenue, in that area that I live. We have several speed bumps, but I really appreciate because we have a lot of young families with their kids and strollers, and if those speed bumps weren't there, I can already see people racing on that street. So I do appreciate them. And I do appreciate the mayor saying what types of speed bumps, because yeah, I've seen other cities have different types. And I do notice that there's one in Sunny Hills that I think it's a little bit too high, because if you're going a little bit above, let's say you're going, even though you're supposed to go 25, but I've seen people like their head hits,
Oh,
you know. So that, I do also understand the safety part, because even if someone is going, they can hit their head on the top of the car. So, or especially when the police are chasing after somebody, that is
real talk,
oh,
yeah.
so maybe the type of bump or speed bump is something that we can see in the future. But definitely, I do agree that they do calm the traffic down. They are important. What else was I going to say? The signage. I've seen where there's speed bumps, but the signage is being covered by trees, so people can't see that they need to slow down because there's a bump coming up. So if you can just kind of make sure that the leaves on the trees are not blocking that sign. So
It's a real thing. Yeah, it's a real thing.
Yeah.
We'll check in with Public Works, My Milpitas app, and we'll report
yeah.
it. It's funny. Yeah, it's funny you say that because you always, the vice mayor is always on point. Because I remember in high school, my buddy was speeding on Able going south past the library over there, and the tree branches were covering the signage, and so he ended up getting a ticket. But he went to court and he fought it, and because the tree branches were blocking the sign, the judge waived it. So the vice mayor again,
Yeah.
yes, you know it. Yeah. Hey.
Well, especially at nighttime because you can't see.
Yeah. So yeah,
And-
but that's Public Works. We'll connect with Public Works as needed. We're doing great, folks. But yeah, let's move forward, Mr. Chan. If we can move forward with the speed hump, I don't know what we can do. Maybe you can recommend something to us, Mr. Chan. Let's say the vice mayor and I have a couple of streets, for example, in town where there needs to be, or there's a strong request. 100% of the residents want a speed hump, maybe one minimum. So what do we do? We agendize it eventually at some point.
As the current policy outlines, there needs to be a need. The first step is community support. Once we get that support from the community greater than 70%, we go on to the next step. We gather the data, confirm that there is a speeding problem. And then the next step on our current policy is that we look at, does additional enforcement, does radar speed feedback sign, does that curb the speeding concern? If it doesn't, then we move to the more, extreme measure of traffic calming, including speed hump. And when that is, when we arrive at that point, then we'll make that recommendation to City Council. They say, at this location where we have community support, we validate that there is a speeding concern, we try other measure, less extreme measure, and they're not as effective as, this speed hump that we are presenting to you at this point. So we go through those steps and then make that recommendation to City Council for installation. So that is the current process. If there's desire to do otherwise, we could definitely bring it up to the full council for further discussion.
Okay, great. So thank you. That you're right on. So if anything, we'll get a petition going. Vice Mayor?
No, I was just gonna, I'm concurring with Steve Chan because that's, he basically said the steps of how, when they do go through the process of putting in a speed bump. I do like, I think it was Fremont that what they do is they have a database where they do analyze where is the most speeding or traffic, and then they kind of decide whether to put one there.
That's
I
a
do
good
like
one.
that. Okay.
That's really good. So let's
Yeah,
ask Mr. Let me
Yeah, go ahead.
let me just piggyback on that one, Vice Mayor. So, Mr. Chan, have we had any recent reports in terms of the roadways or intersections with the highest number of maybe speeding infractions or moving vehicle accidents, even if I hate to say it? Is there any way we can pull those reports, the data?
We would have to check with PD for the citation. Typically, the report I get is accident related, not citation related to speeding. But as part of, as you mentioned earlier, as part of our speed feedback sign, radar speed feedback sign program, we do have ability to collect data from those devices that we deploy. At the end of the day, after completion of this project, I think we have a total of 26 radar speed feedback sign station deployed throughout the city. So we have some amount of data that we can collect.
Great. If we can, I'd like to request if we can get just the accident data, maybe over the last 12 months or 2 years, just to put an eye on if there's any terrible trends of accidents in any particular areas.
So I would recommend focusing on pedestrian and cyclist related incidents. Would that be amenable instead of just all vehicular accidents?
Yeah, it would be amenable. It's just vehicle accidents are also
Okay.
a concern. That might be another set of data that's not
Okay.
readily available, but that I think it's worth asking for. I
Okay.
don't want
We
to
could
ask for too much. Yeah.
Work with PD to get that information to you.
Okay, great. Thank you for taking that, and I'll work with the Vice Mayor to review that information. Vice Mayor?
So I just had a question on that. It's always good to have that communication between departments. Is that ongoing, or is it just right now because we're asking? It's always good to do.
We do get traffic accident report from regularly from the police department sent over to engineering as part of the data collection. So we do coordinate and we do request enforcement from PD when we receive residents concern on various traffic related issue. We pass that word along to PD for additional enforcement, and they get back to us and with the outcome.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe not just the PD, maybe the fire department, because way back in when I was in the maybe 2012 or 2013, I live in the Pines area, and from 880 getting off to Great Mall Parkway, there was always accidents there. And so I had asked the fire department to, because, they have to go out when people have died there. And so I asked them to do, if they had to do to look to see how many accidents, and then they realized, wow, there's a lot of accidents. So that they were able to contact Caltrans to put in some of those sergeant things. I don't know, there's some kind of barriers. But see, that kind of having that information of where all these accidents, I think you'll have a better understanding what the needs are, what we can do to take a proactive approach to make sure that these deaths or accidents don't happen. So I'm just thinking that maybe if you guys do that, that's why I was asking.
Yeah, we do coordinate with the
Okay.
fire department and
Yeah.
Public Works,
Oh, that's
as well
good.
as PD, in terms of traffic related enforcement, signage, marking, making sure all those devices out there are working, enforcement, is
Yeah.
a feedback loop that
Okay,
we
well,
all
that's
work
great.
together as a team.
Yeah, that's great. I like that. Thank you.
Great, fantastic. I do want to take a moment here to go to public comment. I want to make sure I get all the public comments, not just for this item, but any item. I want to make sure folks have the ample opportunity to provide public comment, as we always do. And so public comment, we'll do 3 minutes. I want to make sure your voice is heard. I know public comment, we really want to touch on public comment and make sure we accomplish that part of the meeting. So first up here, we have Matt Kennedy here. Matt Kennedy, how you doing? Welcome.
Hello, this is Matt Kennedy. Can you hear me?
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor Tran and Vice Mayor Montano. My name is Matt Kennedy, and I'm here as the president of LoopWorks, the company creating the Milpitas Personal Rapid Transit System. And on behalf of LoopWorks and the project, I request time during a future transportation subcommittee meeting to briefly outline the project and answer questions that you might have and request support. The LoopWorks secretary will follow up with this request by sending specifics to the city clerk. This project is shaping up to be an infrastructure that will benefit the people of Milpitas and raise the profile of the city. In the words of President Biden, we've already waited too long to deal with this climate crisis. We see it with our own eyes, we feel it, we know it in our bones. And it's time to act. It's time to act. I look forward to meeting with you, and thank you.
Okay. I think what you can do, Matt, is send an email to myself and the vice mayor, and we'll take a look at what you're proposing. We'll take a look at it, and that's all we can do today. And so, let's see if there's any further public comment here. Okay, any further public comment? I want to make sure everybody's voice is heard, as always. Okay, that's it with the public comment. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. And we'll now go to other topics. Let's check in with Steve Chan. Are there any other topics you'd like?
Mayor Tran, I do have a couple of announcements.
Oh, please. Yeah.
So, as you may have been alerted, city staff submitted an application for a citywide on-demand pilot transit program to BTA's Measure B Innovative Transit Model Grant Program. Milpitas' project received the highest score out of 5 submitted projects. BTA is recommending to the BTA board to award $1 million to Milpitas on-demand pilot transit program. So that's pretty exciting.
That is very exciting.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And I know the vice mayor is
Thank you.
over there. Yeah.
Thank you for your hard work.
Yeah, I know. Thank you, city staff, and also proud to have the vice mayor over there working all together. I know, Steve, you work with the vice mayor, with the VTA and all that stuff behind the scenes a little bit appropriately. So that's great. Thank you. What else, Mr. Chan? Keep it going.
And the second announcement, as part of the BTA's Fast Transit Program goal to improve transit travel time and reliability. VTA is consolidate some closely spaced bus stop throughout its bus network beginning this month. Specifically, Route 66 that serves Milpitas will have some bus stop consolidated.
Great, yeah. We'll see how that
Yeah.
all pans out, huh?
Can I add to that?
Please.
So the reason why they're doing that is so like Mr. Chan said, is so that there'll be less stops. It'll be more,
Service.
yeah, we're streaming, it'll be faster. Well, I was gonna also announce about the bus. Now they're doing instead of people collecting going through the front of the bus, they're gonna be doing the back of the bus. They're gonna be coming into the back, and no fees will be collected. I think you probably already knew that, Mr. Chan, but that's something new that the board decided to do.
Great.
And that's because of COVID, because a lot
Oh.
of the bus drivers were getting infected. To safety.
Safety, absolutely. I'm so happy. I'm not happy with what's happening, but I'm a little bit happy knowing that we're taking appropriate measures. And thank you for the updates from VTA, Vice Mayor. I think with every transportation subcommittee meeting, as we go into this new sort of term here, we look forward to your updates from the VTA. That's special. Thanks. Okay.
And that concludes the announcement I have.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Chan. Before we adjourn, I just want to say Happy Lunar New Year to everybody. It is a special holiday here in town where we can all celebrate and
Happy Valentine's Day.
And happy, not for me. I'm going fishing, but not everybody can celebrate that one, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, you have a mother. Everybody has a mother.
All right, I'll take
Doesn't
it.
have to be a significant other.
Okay, hey, happy Friday, everybody, and have a great weekend. Great work from our engineering department, and with Steve Chan. Thank you so much.
Thank you for all your hard work.
This meeting is adjourned.